Another 5 at 5. Yesterday we talked about how Abraham lived a life full of obedience. He was a man who was determined to hear and obey the word of God. And now today we're taking a look at another Old Testament character, Moses. And Moses is a very interesting character because in the first few chapters of Exodus, he kind of goes back and forth between hearing and being afraid to obey, and then he hears again, and then he finally obeys. So let's start in Exodus chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? He said, But I will be with you. And this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. So God spoke to Moses, and Moses heard him, but he was too scared to take God at his word and obey. He didn't say, Yes, Lord. He came back with all these excuses. But then God said, You can do this because I will be with you. You can obey me, because I will be with you. Just trust me and you'll be able to do it. But then Moses, he comes back with something else. In Exodus chapter 4, verse 1, he says, But behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, The Lord did not appear to you. Moses did exactly what you and I do sometimes. We talk back to God. We try to reason with him as if we have better ideas than God does. Maybe we say, No, God, I don't think that's going to work out for me. But what about this? I have a better idea. Or, I hear you, God, but I just don't think that's going to work. Or maybe you might say, Well, I know that it says this in the Bible, but my situation's kind of a little bit different, isn't it? Well, no matter what Moses says, and no matter what we say back to God, God doesn't budge. He will not budge. We're not going to be able to convince God of something or change his mind. We are commanded to obey him at his word, to obey him, not just hear it. Now, after all this, Moses, he takes it a step further. In Exodus 4:13, but he said, O my Lord, please send someone else. We should make it a personal goal to never reach the point that Moses reached. He told God no. He said, God, no, send someone else because I can't do it. Moses was completely disobedient. He should have been more like Abraham was. He should have just said, Yes, Lord, I hear you and I'm going to do it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know the rest of the story. Moses, he does finally get around to being obedient. And God does use Moses to free his people from Pharaoh. He does all these great things. Moses and his brother Aaron, they courageously face Pharaoh, and they did everything that God told them to do, which is exactly what Moses should have done in the first place. And the rest of Moses' story, it shows us that living in obedience to God is the best way to live. It doesn't mean that life is going to be easy. It's not what that means. It doesn't mean that you are never going to face hard times. I mean, if you read through Exodus, you'll see that Moses definitely did not have an easy life. He faced some really difficult times. But it does mean, just like Jesus teaches in Matthew 7, that when we live a life of obedience, our foundation is on the rock, and the trials of this life won't bring us down. So let's be more like Abraham. Let's say yes, Lord, and obey. Let's not be like Moses here in the beginning of Exodus and talk back to God. We need to be obedient. I'll see you.